Hello, everyone. Jared and I are meeting together today for a quick chat about how share markets are coping currently with the COVID-19 crisis. Before we get started, Jared, do you reckon you could define for me some jargon? What's the difference between Main Street and Wall Street, and why is it important?
Sure, Rhodes. Look, jargon's one of our biggest enemies in this world, so a bit of jargon busting will be good. Main Street is what we refer to the world at our front door. You know, it's the world we live in. It's what we're seeing: shops closed, and it's the lockdown
Factories,
period.
schools,
Factories. Yep, it's right out the front door.
shops.
It's unavoidable. So that's what we call Main Street. Then we have what we call Wall Street. Wall Street is the term we give for share markets around the world. The thing with Wall Street is that Wall Street's always looking 9 to 12 to 18 months ahead of Main Street, and that Wall Street's trying to work out what is going to happen to future profits down a year down the track. So it's quite important to be clear about which street we're talking about, whether we're talking about the economies out our front door or actually we're talking about the markets looking 12 to 18 months ahead of us, because at times they can move quite differently.
So is this what's happening, or is this what's happened already in the markets, where we see the real world, Main Street, getting worse with oil prices collapsing? Anyone involved in the oil economy is going to find it very hard to survive. You know, the Americans are talking about bailing out their oil industry. There's nowhere to store the oil, all that sort of stuff. Unemployment expected to rise around the world, yet share markets rebounded strongly. So what's happened there?
Yeah, so to give a bit of a summary, what's happened. So the recent market high in Wall Street on the share markets was the 19th of February this year. And then things fell into a hole. And by the 23rd of March, about 5 weeks later, we've had the most recent low point in share markets. For example, the US share market fell 34% over those 5 weeks, and the New Zealand share market didn't do much better. It fell 31% over the 5 weeks. Since then, since the 23rd of March, which is a month today, there's been quite a strong recovery, a so-called V-shaped recovery. The US share market has come up 27% since the 23rd of March, and the New Zealand shares are up 20%. But it's not quite a full V-shaped recovery. We're only part way up the other side of the V, because if something falls 30%, it actually needs to come back 43%-ish to get back to the level it once was. So while the recovery on Wall Street or in share markets has started, we're only part way there. So I guess, Rhodes, with that, could you give us some sort of prediction maybe of where you think share markets might be going?
No, well, I certainly can't give a prediction, but it's very sensible to prepare for the worst case. What we're seeing now probably are the markets or Wall Street thinking through to the best case, thinking how central banks are supporting businesses around the world, governments are spending money on projects and supporting banks and so on. So that's been the rosy sort of Goldilocks scenario in recent times, but it pays us to consider that things could get worse from here. Now, it might be something like the oil industry dragging us down or dragging Wall Street down further. It's a couple of days into it, or it could be something else that comes up. It could be this month, it could be next month, it could be the month after, but it just pays to expect a shock of some kind, of which we don't know. So we need to prepare for that. And I said, but we prepare for it by not worrying about it when it comes. Everyone's got long-term plans. They've got portfolios in place that are designed for the long term. And if there's another drop in the markets like we had in March, we rebalance everyone's portfolios. We sell the bonds that are doing well, and we buy shares which are suddenly become a lot cheaper. So that's something that we have to do as part of our license, and it's a real benefit in the long term. to be. It's just like clients, all our clients' portfolios suddenly having a whole lot of cash in them that we can use to buy into the low markets, and that cash is generated by selling bonds, which have become overvalued. That's a really important thing. We've already done it once. We did it in March, towards the end of March, just before the low. But apart from that, the next big milestone that our clients have got to take into account is July, when the distributions come into the portfolios. And at that point, we work out for the people, especially the people who are taking regular distributions. So this cash comes into the portfolio. And for those that are taking regular distributions, we need to see if there's enough there. And if there's not, well, we would then need to sell some bonds. But depending on the environment, the market economic environment at that point, it could be we're going to clients to see how many have emergency funds that they could be using instead of taking distributions from the portfolio. So that's the next milestone. We actually did it in January, February of last year, 2019, and some clients postponed their regular distributions and lived off emergency funds at that time. And it could be that July, August sees us coming back to everyone to see how they can survive, whether they could survive without taking distributions. But there's always a lot of pressure on people to do something, but again, it's just stay in your seats like we've been talking about. It's stick to the plan and be in there for the recovery. Imagine if people, and think about all the people, this KiwiSaver people who sold shares, pulled out of their growth portfolios in the middle of March, and they missed a 25% rebound in values. They locked in losses, and they missed a 20 to 25% rebound in values. So
I think that's the old buying at the top and selling at the bottom. Never a good recipe for an enjoyable outcome.
And we had a few clients considering getting out of the market in the middle of March, didn't we? Well, we had no idea that there would be that 25% jump, but that's what happens in this situation. You have to stay in because you never time it to get back in correctly.
No, that's great, Rhodes. I think we'll wrap it up there for this week. Thank you very much. Thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you all again shortly. All the best.
Thanks, Jared. See you.